Thank you for the invite to come out. Twice now I've been out here, and Pastor Dave hasn't been here, so I'm getting a complex about that, but we'll forgive him and hope he has an enjoyable time and brings peace back to his life. Give you a little bit of my background. I was a police officer for 28 years. I didn't come to Christ until I was almost 50. So I'm a late bloomer. I joined C3, Christ Community Church, and my first year there, I went on my first mission trip to China, and that's what really opened up my life. It's given me tremendous opportunities. I'm now the missions director, but I've been to China 4 times, South Africa a number of times, and in just under 6 weeks, I'm heading to Pakistan for my 3rd trip to Pakistan. So it's just been a blessing for me. It's really opened my life, and it's helped so much in other ways internally in my life. But today, I was asked to speak today, and I'm sitting at church last Sunday, and I'm wondering, I'm just praying about what to speak on. So I'll take off my coat because that kind of helps me with my explanation. And as I was standing in church and I was praying over it, I was praying over what topic to speak on. I kind of looked down and I looked at my arms. I saw bruises. And you ever had that time when you're praying for something and God gives you a word and you go kind of like, what? Bruises. And so the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about that, it just seemed to come over me more and more about bruises. And so, my life is a lot of bruises. I mean, when I was young, I played basketball and I broke my toe and my leg and everything else was all bruised up. I played hockey for a number of years, so I've had my nose broken 3 times. And then twice I've had corrective surgery, which probably caused more bruising than the actual break did, and it still doesn't work that well. But when I'm working at home now, my wife is used to the call when I'm coming in. I'm outside, I'll come in, I'll give the medic call because I've hurt myself somewhere or other and another bruise. But my current issue, I'm on Plavix. Just a wonderful, great story for me. My wife and I have always had dogs. And so several years ago, our last dog passed away. And at our ages now, we're thinking, okay, do we want to get another dog now or that? And about a year we had without a dog. And finally, we started talking about dogs again. So, okay, what type do we want to get? We've had all types. So we said, well, how about a Labrador? We could grow old together. We always think labs are always like there. So we got a lab puppy. And I started walking this dog every day. And after 6-8 months, I walk a dog every day. We do a couple miles every morning. I'm going, man, I should be getting better shape than this. I get down 3 or 4 blocks. I'd be breathing heavy. I'm going, this isn't right. I need to be getting better shape. So I went to the doctor. He thought, well, maybe I had water in my heart. So he gave me some pills for that. Didn't help. So he said, okay, let's do a stress test. So I did the walking stress test, walked through that. I passed it. They had me up, big slant and going pretty fast. I passed that. Still couldn't figure it out. They said, okay, well, we have to send you for a nuclear test. They put the nuclear dye in and get your heart really pumping and that, and they take x-rays while you're doing that, take an image. And he asked me, he goes, have you had a heart attack? I said, no, not that I know of. He goes, well, we have scarring in your heart. We need to go in and do a catheter and put some dye in there and take a picture. So they went in for that, and I come to find out I had 100% blockage and 80% blockage in my heart. Wow. Never knew it. My heart had, through God's grace, he had rerouted the blood flow of my heart to keep me going, and I never really noticed it. So I'm on the Plavix, and Plavix is one of the things that causes bruises. And some days it's pretty bad. When I was to church, I had to be this big, all bruising in my arm and that. My legs are all bruises, and somebody grabs me hard or whatever, the dog goes up my leg, I'll get bruises. But there's different types of bruises. Some we see on our surface of our skin. Some are deep muscle bruises and that. And some we don't see at all. And that's kind of where I'm leading with this. But, if we have a bruise in our arm or on our body and that, we put ice on it, reduce the swelling. They tell you to raise the bruised area above your heart so that blood doesn't pool there. They give you medication to reduce pain, that kind of thing, maybe help the flow a bit. Then my personal favorite is rest the bruise area. And that's when I tend to use a lot because it helps to rest. But what about the bruises we don't see, the internal bruises, the ones that are deep in us? The ones that you may not see, but people around us, they may see them in our actions, in our attitudes, and just how we live our life. Such as bruises to someone's ego or their self-worth. I can think about, when you hear so many people and you're in a store or whatever, and you hear families there, and the mother, father goes with the young child. He goes, "You're so stupid. What are you doing?" And that's all this child hears is how stupid they are, how dumb they are. My wife tells me when she was growing up, her mother told her, "It's a good thing you're pretty because you're not smart." And she grew up with that attitude that, her sister was a smart one, and good thing she was a pretty one. Wow. And that's what she grew up with, and she's overcome that because she was able to get out of that atmosphere early. But how many children hear that every day of their life? That, you'll never amount to anything, you need to do this, whatever type thing. When I go to Pakistan, the children there are going down the street and you see these two girls in the doorway. And I asked Pastor Nazir, who we meet there, I said, "What is their life going to be like?" He goes, "They'll get married and have babies." Because that's all they know. They're never told they can do any more than that. And how many children go through that growing up that way is that you'll never amount to anything else. You might as well do this because you're not going to do that. You're not good at school. Whatever it is, they hear that. And what happens is that becomes implanted in the mind. It's a permanent bruise that they have in their system, in their body. Or think about when you were a kid and you're playing sports and you're picking teams. And it's getting down less and less kids to pick from, and you're still standing there. And they go, you're the last kid to be picked. Or what's worse is when the other team makes their last pick and they laugh and go, "Ha, you got Ron." Yeah. What does that do to you? You may have great potential in you for that sport, but because you hear that, you figure, okay, I must do something else because I'm not good at this. But children hear that. It's inbred into them. It's impacted into them. And they live with that bruise. And it takes a lot to overcome that bruise. It takes people to show an interest to them, to give them the love in that, to overcome those type of things. Maybe it bruises of the heart. Maybe you had broken relationships. And you just walked away from them and you felt hurt. And you just know that it must have been something I did to cause this. And many times it's not. It's something that was caused by other person, whatever, but because they kept telling you things and beating you down, you thought, it's my problem. It's my fault. I'm no good. Many times when I'm preaching and that, I get all done, and maybe when you talk to people and that, you go, "Oh, I should have said this, I should have said that." And it can really beat you down if you don't learn from those experiences. But how many of us have broken relationships with loved ones, with family members, with parents? And it just is one of those deep bruises that we carry around with us every day. Maybe there's disappointments in life. You really wanted a job, a promotion at your work, and it was given to somebody else. And maybe they weren't as qualified, but they had the connections that you didn't have. Or somebody gets hired for a position, and because they know the owner or whatever, the old saying, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." It's so true. And if you take all those things to heart and let them bruise you, how is that going to affect your life going forward? If you always think, "I'm a failure, I can never do that because I'm failed." But how many of us carry these internal wounds with us every day? No matter everything we do, it's always there. We never clear it. We never get rid of it. We never think about it because it's buried back in there in our minds. And it's so important that we come to realize that we have these wounds. We have these damages in ourselves. I mean, you're blessed if you can't think of any, but I think that most people can think of something that they're carrying around that from their life, from their childhood, from whatever some point in their life where they face these disappointments and they're carrying these bruises with them. And how long have they been there? Something happened a few days ago, a few weeks ago, could be years ago. Right. These things have happened. There are people today that have childhood experiences that are still suffering from those childhood experiences. And it's through Christ, we find these things and we realize these things, and we find that there is a way type thing. There is a way out. But who caused it? How were they caused? Were they caused by your parents telling you things when you're growing up? Were they caused by your spouse or a family member? How they hurt you? We have a son that walked away from our family a number of years ago over something that was foolish. And he is yet to see his brother's children, our grandchildren. One's a junior in college, and he's never met her because he walked away from the family. Because for whatever reason, he's carrying that hurt around. And what it's doing is affects everybody else's life. It affects my grandchildren who have never seen their uncle. It affects my wife tremendously because what she went through with this son, years ago, she was divorced, and her husband was forced to have custody of him for a while, for a year in another state. And she had to actually go and steal him back because he wouldn't release the boy back. And so what they went through growing up, they had that close bond. For him to walk away, the scars and the hurt that she holds for that remains today, and we still talk and pray about it, about what God's decision is. Maybe you've had friends that disappoint you, and you've carried a scar for friendship. They did something behind your back that hurt you. And how many scars that leaves? Or maybe they're self-inflicted scars. And how many of us do that? Beat ourselves down, tear ourselves apart. I'm no good. I shouldn't do this, whatever the reason is. And those things just keep with us and keep with us. But there is hope, and there's decisions that we had to make in our life, and there's places that we can go for a medical book that cures everything we have. It's right here. In this book, it's the cure for everything we need. Every prescription we need to have filled is in this book. If we open it up and read it, what an amazing thing we discover. And how many times we're praying on a situation, we have a situation in our life, and maybe you go to church service on Sunday, and that service is exactly what you needed to hear that day. Or you're going through the book, you're reading your Bible study, whatever, you have a daily devotional you do. And you open the book, and there's a point that you needed help on. It's right there. It's just, God showed it to you so plainly. Like the thought about bruises for me. I would never have thought of that for a sermon to talk about anything. It would never enter my mind. But once the word got there and it was put into me, it just started to develop and started to grow in my mind about what God wanted me to say. So every cure for every disease, every ailment we ever have is here. In James chapter 5, 14 and 15, is anyone among you sick? Let him call the leaders of the church and pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up. If they have sinned, they will be forgiven. It's so true that, I'm one of the elders of my church, and one of my assignments is to anoint the oil as people come up in our prayer line. And how many people have prayers and have needs in their life? We have long lines every Sunday. Every time we do it, we have long lines. But Jesus Christ is the best healer that's ever had, ever has been, ever will be. Yes, He's healed the lame, the blind, the lepers, the deaf. He's raised the dead. And Jesus' healing is not just for biblical times. So many times you would think, oh, it doesn't happen today, But it does. Healing happens every day. We have a lady at our church. Her name is Judy Wright. If you Google Judy Wright 700 Club, you can get her whole story. But she worked in a factory that she was breathing these chemicals, and it affected her. She had 4 strokes. Over a period of time, she was blind. The left side of her face and both eyes, left eyes, were blind in both eyes. So her husband said that when she eat a meal, halfway through the meal, he would turn the plate around so that you could see the other half of the plate, because both eyes were blind on the left side. And one day you read the whole story, but one day they're watching the 700 Club on TV. And the people on there, they prayed for somebody that had strokes. And they said that she said she felt this warm feeling all over her body. And she was using a walker when she was walking. She felt this warm feeling all over her body, and her husband laid hands on her, and they prayed for her. And he said, the Lord told me to go up and go for a walk. They went outside without a walker and started walking up and down the street. You see her in church now. She's up the front dancing with flags and everything else. But just a tremendous story, and we don't hear those stories enough here because they happen here. How many times we've heard stories of miraculous healings and that, but we don't share them, and people outside the church and that, they're so quick to put them down. It's medications, it's this, it's that. But there are cases like Judy's case, well, it wasn't medications. It wasn't a doctor giving some miracle cure. It was God. It was Jesus Christ changing her life.
Amen. Hallelujah.
And her life has been changed. I mean, the two of them as a couple, they have to have a wing at the hospital because they've had so many issues in their life. But every time they have an issue, God, even the doctors say that they're the miracle patients because they shouldn't be here. And I look back in my situation with my heart. My heart was bad enough, 100% blockage, and 80% blockage. Very easily could have been the big one at any time.
Right.
But, this dog, it's like a godsend to us, his dog, because if I hadn't gotten this dog and did the walking I was doing, I was getting by day-to-day life.
Right.
But the extra exertion that I was getting from his daily walks forced me to go to the hospital, the doctor, and in the hospital, and have the heart done. So it's every day that things are happening if we realize it. So much when we go our lives every day, God puts things in front of us every day. And it's up to us to notice them and see them, the opportunities he has and the things he has. And just, to pray for people. Because prayer is so powerful.
Yes.
We go to foreign countries, and we do, over there, their praise and worship lasts 3 hours long. You'd love it. And we go to speak, and they've been praise and worship for 2 or 3 hours before we even get there to speak, type of thing in the evening. And they look at prayer as such a powerful thing because they see it. Because they don't have the distractions we have here. So many things, you come home and the TV and the internet and everything else we have here. We don't see those things. We don't see the glory that God puts in front of us every day, the healings they have. And over there, you see it because the people there, they believe it. And they see the hope. Where here people have dismissed so many things in that they don't see the hope so much. Over there, they see the hope. In Psalms 143, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And it's always there. So how or where were you bruised? Do you face disappointment? Here's your prescription. Philippians chapter 4. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. So when we've been disappointed, we know that somebody is there to carry us through. He's there, always there. He has our back. He covers us. He protects us. He heals us inside. Was your heart broken? Here's your prescription. In Isaiah, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand. No matter what we go through in life, he's always there to support us, to help us. And the thing of it is, we just have to take that time to ask. And I was starting to pray about my sermons for Pakistan. We have to speak a number of different churches, a number of different times, and we do lessons with the children and everything else. And I'm speaking twice in Pastor Nazir's church. And so it's difficult because most people there don't read to begin with, so they can't really do Bible studies in that. So the word that they're getting is the word, and that's all they hear. So I started thinking about, okay, what to discuss in that, and I'm doing 2 sermons in his church, and my morning dog walks and my prayer walks. I usually go 7:30 in the morning. We'll walk a mile or 2 every day, And that's my time to really just walk. Sometimes I'll have music going, soft music. Sometimes I just walk and just look at the wonders of God as you walk in that, and just watch things and notice the little things that maybe you don't notice when you're driving at 40, 50 miles an hour down the road. About the flowers, the plants, the trees, the animals you see, whatever, the people you meet, and you pray for them as you're walking. But this morning I was walking, and I had one idea about something to do, but today it hit me about prayer. And so I was going to do the first sermon on prayer, of the importance of prayer and prayers being answered. But I love music, all types of music, and I'm a country music fan. And the song by Garth Brooks came to me, Unanswered Prayers. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And so that was going to be my second week sermon because we pray for things so much and they don't happen. And some people lose faith in that because I've prayed for this for so long and you haven't done it for me. Why haven't I gotten this? There's a reason for it. God gives us what we need when we need it. And he knows what we need and what we don't need. My wife, she had her sister, and her sister was a very bad alcoholic. And my wife prayed years and years and years, Lord, whatever you have to do, help her. Prayed over and over again. We got a call one day from her husband, you better get down here, your sister's in a coma. So I went down there. She was in a coma for, I think, about 6 weeks. Her body had completely shut down from the alcohol and that. And my wife felt bad. She goes, oh my God, what have I done? Because I prayed for this. And God answered that prayer. And she thinking because she stopped drinking. And she went through a whole detox in a coma. So she woke up feeling wonderful. Driving again, walking fine, didn't have the shakes. Everything. And so my wife, she got her wish. But the problem was her sister didn't have that wish. And even though she was done with the alcohol, she never went through detox. She was living a good life. She was manipulated, whatever, by her husband. Hey, go make me a drink. Within 6 months, she was drinking again, and she's now since passed. But God answered my wife's prayers. Exactly what she had prayed for. Please help my sister. And he helped her. But she didn't have that faith in her to realize that this was a gift from God. That he cured you of this. He stopped your drinking. And it's up to you to carry that forward. Amen. And she didn't have that. But we carry these events from years past, and we carry them every day. And we continue to carry them inside us. And it's up to us to realize that, look, this is a burden that I don't have to have. It's a burden that God has taken from me. We must remember that we've already been cured of these things. When we accepted Jesus as our Lord, he came in and he took all our pains away. He took all our past wrongdoings, our past sins, and he took them all away. And our problem is we keep forgetting to fill a prescription because it's here. Yes. And it's up to us to open up that book and look for answers. Yes. And read the answers and live the answers because he's already given us the cure for whatever we have. Yes. Physical problems, he's cured them all. And it's not just in biblical times. I mean, they're cured today. You hear stories about people that have been dead, pronounced dead, and come back to life. Mm-hmm. What purpose is that other than glory to God? And that's what we need to do is look at everything that happens in our life and say, this is God's purpose, why this is happening. This is what's supposed to happen. Yes, I didn't get that promotion, but God has a plan for me that's greater than that. I may not ever get a promotion. I may never get another job. But God has an assignment for me here where I am today, in the job I am today. He's going to put things in front of us every day. It's up to realize to take advantage of it. And it's hard for us as Westerners to do because everyone's, their own private life. They don't want to talk to other people and get involved in people's lives. But there are people out every day that are needing it. We have a prayer tent in front of our church. It's the second year we've been doing it now. And this year we actually put up a little gazebo there. And each day during the week, we'll have people out there volunteering and just sit by, just sit there. And there's signs along Kelly Road. And Kelly Road at that point is not a real main thoroughfare. You have to have a reason to go down there type thing, basically. But we have signs up, stop in for prayer. This year we've had over 300 people stop in for prayer. Almost 50 salvations. Last year there was over 1,000 people stopped in, I believe. But people coming in, and they'll come in and say, we've had, on one story from last year, a truck driver was on I-94. And he said, something has told me to get off the freeway and come here. He pulled his semi-rig into the station, into the parking lot, and came over for prayer. But people are just drawn to that. It's been such a wonderful thing and there's so many people out there that need prayer. And how many times do we see somebody, and Pastor Tim speaks about this a lot, but you're in a store and you see the clerk at the store, and you can tell that just something's not right. They're sad or whatever. How many offer up prayer to that person? Can I pray for you? And think, hear the stories about when people do that, how it affects their lives. My wife and I, we go out to eat a lot because there's two of us left now, so we like to go out to eat a lot. And it's amazing how many people, you go to a restaurant on a Sunday afternoon, everybody's coming from church because we're all dressed up nice and that. And we always remark as how few people pray over their food. Do you ever notice it? We notice it all the time, and we'll sit there. We'll hold hands. We're hand-hold prayers at church. At breakfast. So we hold hands over the table and we pray. And many times if we have waitress, we'll ask waitress, "Can we pray for something for you?" And how many of them are so appreciative of that? Because they have needs. Maybe they were trying to get to a school or this or whatever the problem is, and you pray for them at that time because they're carrying these things around with them. And maybe something you say is going to touch that spot. Yeah. It's that itch inside that they can't take care of themselves. And you're going to touch that spot, and they're going to say, wow. And it's going to resonate with them. It's going to help them. I'm going online looking for information on that, and I found this chart, and it's actually pretty good. And it talks about the differences in a biblical divine healing, a natural healing, your body just heals naturally, or medical healing. And it compares the three. It talks about how quickly different healings come on. You look at every story there was throughout the Bible, stories you hear today, a biblical divine teaching or healing is immediate. Get up and walk. You're healed. Leprosy. Blind sees immediately. Anything that happens, it's an immediate healing. It's not a long, drawn-out process. With Judy Wright, you got up and started walking. Immediate. Natural healing, it's a slow process. Like my bruises. These have been here for about 3 weeks. This one's fairly new. But it's a process that goes through for your body to heal that. Medical, it's mostly slow. I've been on Plavix for over a year. I'll be on those little baby aspirins the rest of my life, he says. Just to, for preventative. How long do these things last? Biblical healing, it's forever. When God heals you, he heals you. It's not that it comes back in a year or two. Natural healing may take a long time. It may come back. May or may not last. Medical healing may or may not last. How many people go in for multiple operations, multiple things? Wasn't correct the first time, sorry, we got to go in again. I had vertigo really bad one day. I went to the hospital and he took a MRI and they said I had an issue up in here. So I went to the neurologist and I had my pituitary gland. I had a growth on top of my pituitary gland. It was pressing into my optic nerve. And it was going this. And he said if it got big enough, it would pinch the optic nerve and I would go blind. So I had to go in and they went in through the nose cavity and all sight unseen as surgery to remove this tumor. But I have to go back every year for an MRI because it could come back. You know, it's slow, but possibly could come back. Because you don't have to have it done right away. I said, no, let's do it now. I'm healthy. Let's get it done. But it may come back. It wasn't a permanent fix. How verifiable are they? Believe me, if somebody gets up and walks that's lame, that's verifiable. If a blind person can suddenly see, that's verifiable in a spiritual, the biblical healing. Natural healing, it's hard to tell. You know, you can't say definitely this is done. The same with medical healing. You can't say it's definitely done once and for all. Finally, who gets the glory? I mean, that's the big thing. Biblical, God alone gets the glory. You know, we may lay hands on somebody and they're healed, but it's not our hands that are healing them. It's not our words that are healing them. It's God's words. It's God's hands through us. And people just don't think that I can do that. You have no idea what the power you have. As long as you have that faith and you believe, God has given every one of us tremendous power. Natural healing, it's the evolution. It's just natural things happen. It's just, that's what happens. Man's stronger today. It's through evolution. It happens. Medical healing, who gets all the glory? Oh, doctor, you're so wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I always think about, they are wonderful. And medicine is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I always look back at, okay, who gave this person the ability for this? Who gave them the brain that absorbs this stuff, much information, and is able to utilize that? That's not something you're just picking up. I mean, it's not something you learn. You're born with these abilities. Same with music. I love music. Can't play a thing. I listen if I love it, but some people have an ability. God gives them those abilities. Look at these kids that are 4 and 5 years old that are playing concert piano type thing, everything else. And I mean, where does that come from other than God? So the thing of it is, we must never forget who the greatest physician is. He's with us every day. He walks with us step by step. He knows our thoughts. He knows our needs, our wants, our desires. Whatever it is, he knows that. He's known it since before you were born. He's always on hand. I like to think of it, he has perfect bedside manner. He's always there. He's never going to, I've had doctors I had one doctor that you get a 2 o'clock appointment, you better be in his office at 2 o'clock, and he's in his office at 2 o'clock. If you weren't there at 2:05, you're canceled, and they charge you for it. My wife is not a big medication taker. So he prescribed her medication, and she went back to see him again, and he goes, how's it working out? He goes, well, I haven't been taking it. He goes, look, if you're not going to take what I tell you to take, go see another doctor. That was, ever watch House on TV? Used to be on TV, House? That was this doctor. Wonderful doctor, no bedside manner. None at all. But, he's the one doctor I've seen when my mother had pancreatic cancer. And he actually called my wife and I in when she was going to let her know so we could be with her. Only doctor I think I've ever seen that cried when he gave the information like that. He had that heart. And because he loved people so much, it actually killed him. He had diabetes. It affected his leg. He wouldn't rest. And he basically worked himself to death helping people. But God was always there. He's got that perfect bedside manner. Doesn't matter what you say, what you do, whatever, he's there. He's there to comfort you, to help you, to protect you. Through any pain and any disappointment we have. And Jesus told us, I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. And it's so true. Regardless of what we do, you just got to be thinking he's looking down and go, Ron, what are you doing? But okay, come here. Let's make it better. Let's talk. And that's a conversation we have. We don't have to be eloquent in what we say or what we ask. It's a conversation. Talking to your best friend you ever have in the world, just back and forth. What do you think, Lord? What's on the agenda today? Open my eyes so I see it. When somebody passes me by, then you put them there, And I'm the person that needs a little awakening. I had an offer to go to Pakistan with Pastor Ray Bucciarelli. I don't know if you know him or not. Pastor Tim, we were looking at doing a safe house in northern Pakistan, so I was offered a trip to go along because I was a mission director. I went home and I was all excited. I told my wife, and my wife goes, "No way. What do we hear about Pakistan? I mean, it's terrible." So she goes, "No way, no way." So I'm riding in the car one day and I'm praying about it, and a song comes on the radio, and my mind escapes me. I can't think of the song right now. But it comes on the radio and it talks about having faith and doing things. Okay, I listen to the song, and it's by the group Down Under, and they may come to me. So a little while later, I'm going through the station, I'm flipping on the station. Same song comes on. So I'm thinking, okay, Lord, thank you. I'm praying on it. I'm still praying on the Pakistan thing. Flipping on the station, same song comes on again. I'm going, okay, Lord, I'm kind of new to this. I need a little assurance. I said, get me the 2x4, hit me on the side of the head. Switch station. Next song that came on says, "Do not be afraid." Like I said, my mind is going. But "Do not be afraid," that type of thing. Song comes on. So I went home, told my wife their story, the whole thing, and she goes, "You're going to Pakistan." And our trip ended up, we had to drive right through Taliban territory coming back because we couldn't fly out of wherever we were. They weren't even going to let us pass and everything else. But what glory we had there and meeting people there. And it really opens your eyes that all these people want is food in their stomachs and a roof over their head. And just showing, even though we never evangelized, because you don't want to do that in the middle of Taliban territory, because we had a flat tire, we had to stop at this little village while they switched the tires. But we played hacky sack with kids that couldn't speak English. We couldn't speak Urdu, and we had interpreters that with us. But just that time together, showing God's love. And it's probably the first time they've ever seen Americans in person. But God gave us that opportunity to spend a half hour with these people and just show God's love. So what I'd like to do is, and I'd like to just open things up. I know that many of us have things in our lives, and I'd like to open the altar up just in kind of an exercise that declaring, look, I know I have this hurt in my heart, and I'm carrying around for whatever reason, and we're not going to share what they are, but we have these hurts inside of us. And what I like to do is I like to open the altar up, just come up front, and kind of as a symbolic thing is that, look, I'm bringing my problems, my burdens, my bruises, my injuries. I'm bringing them to the altar. I'm going to leave them here. Yes. And when you walk away, leave them here. So many times we think about it and I've forgiven them. But do we really? Do we really just walk away and say, look, that's past. That's not me anymore. What they did to me or what I did to myself years ago is no longer in me now. I have Christ in me now. Those things do not matter in my life anymore. So I just like, if you have that feeling, come on up. I'd like to say a prayer, and then we'll close. Amen. Hallelujah.
on.